Hey guys, not gonna lie, I've been drinking a little bit tonight, reading a lot of news articles. Got a nice little buzz going. Realized after recording that last video about gun control, kind of forgot to cover everything. Tends to happen whenever you're drinking. Um, don't let that cloud your judgment about what I'm saying. I'm talking real shit like I always do. Hence the name of my channel, you know. For real shit 1 2 3 4, which by the way is a reference to a Streetlight Manifesto song, but nonetheless, as an addendum to what I covered in my last video, specifically the one about gun control, there are a couple things I want to go over. I referenced the reason I went over the topic and made the video was because of things that have happened recently, you know, obviously concerning mass shootings, particularly involved in school environments. And I know a lot of you are going to be against this. I mean, probably in the range of 75%, if not greater, are going to be completely against this. And I cannot blame you, because I can completely understand the sentiment. And as I said before, your opinions are your own, and I value you for independent thought. But nonetheless, as far as the school shootings go, because that seems to be the main claim that Democrats and, you know, assorted other political parties are making towards a limitation of fully automatic assault rifles and, you know, the likes. It's limiting the guns isn't going to work. What is going to fix the problem is arming the teachers, which falls back to what I said before about passing a basic munitions, you know, safety course. If you're going to be a teacher, you would have the option, in my opinion, this is how my, we'll call it, you know, utopian view would work. The teachers would have the option to arm themselves, because as it stands, the law of the land forbids that there are any kind of firearms in public school. Obviously that law doesn't work, because we're still having school shootings. And you know what's happening? Some jackass is walking onto school campuses with a gun when nobody else has any kind of way to defend themselves other than to fucking run or hide. That's it. Or you get shot. I mean, that's it. There is no other way around it. So I think that if we arm the teachers, you know, faculty and staff with guns, and I don't mean like, congratulations, you're a teacher, here's a gun. I mean, it would be an option. And I don't expect every single teacher to be armed, but even if 25% of the teachers were armed, 1 out of every 4, given, you know, the fact that whenever I went to high school, there was, what, 10, 15, maybe 20 classrooms in every, you know, hallway of the school. And there was, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Multiply, you know, 8 times 10. You know, there's anywhere from like 60 to 100 faculty at the school, right? Well, if 25% of them are armed, statistically speaking, you're talking in the range of, you know, 15 to 25 of them have a gun. Loaded gun. Obviously, I would want them to pass some kind of certification saying they are entitled to handle a firearm around children in a very public setting. But nonetheless, it could be done with legislation and the likes to stop these kind of school shootings from happening. I think that's the only way to go about it, because think about it this way. Think about, okay, your wife calls you, you know, whenever you get off work, or your husband calls you, whatever, you know, depending on who's the breadwinner. Whoever, it doesn't matter. Whoever's getting off work, their significant other texts them or calls them saying, hey, can you grab, you know, a loaf of bread on the way home from work? And you go to the local store, you know, corner store, grocery store, what have you, and some asshole thinks, okay, cool, I'm gonna fuck everybody else over and make money really quick. So he decides he's going to rob the place. Now, I've worked multiple minimum wage jobs, and almost every single one of them tells me that, I'm not kidding, If I engage the person robbing the place, I will be terminated immediately. Meaning that if I do the right thing, which is stop the person from committing a crime, I lose my job. That really disturbs me down, like, to the core. I can't even describe it. Like, I am more offended by somebody telling me that than I am by somebody robbing me in the first place, because quite frankly, I can understand the sentiment of wanting to rob somebody or a company of money because it's a lot easier than making the money yourself. But when it comes down to it, I can lose my job if I stop you from committing a crime. But in my understanding, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've always heard the term COP was an acronym for Citizen on Patrol. I personally believe it is every single citizen's responsibility to uphold and defend laws that they feel are just. Now, some of you are going to say that, that's narrow-minded and naive and whatnot, but if you go back to my previous videos about expanding the education, reform, everybody would have a very broad sense of what is common sense and what is just and what is right. Well, if so was the case, we would all understand human rights and basic liberties and whatnot. We would also understand what's, the difference between right and wrong. And we'd be able to make judgments on our own. Well, my personal thought is that if everybody is allowed to have a gun, theoretically, as long as they don't have a violent history, which you don't know if your neighbor or your coworker has a violent history unless you ask them and they're actually honest with you about it. You won't know. So if everybody's entitled to possess a firearm without some kind of concealed weapons permit or the likes, you will probably think twice before you go to rob somebody or some company. Because you go into the store. Let's say there's anywhere from 1 to 20 people in the store. Well, if statistically speaking, 25% of them have a firearm, well, that could be anywhere from 0.25 persons to 5 people in the store have a gun. And 5 people with a gun versus 1 person with a gun doesn't work out very good for the person who's robbing the store. Which means that if they have any kind of common sense, they probably won't do it. And if they do, chances are they get shot. And I don't mean shoot to death. I mean, if everybody passed a basic munitions class, as I've stated in previous videos, they would know how to shoot and where to shoot. Meaning they would know how to either disarm or incapacitate, the suspect. Which means that the person would be able to be apprehended by citizens. They'd be placed under citizen's arrest, which is a thing most people in this damn country don't even know exists anymore because they're too afraid to do it. But if that was the case, in my opinion, if you arm everybody, logically speaking, the crime rate has to drop. Because you never know who's going to have a gun or, any kind of self-defense, whatever. Who's going to have it or not? You don't know. And that thought's going to be in the back of your head before you commit any kind of crime, specifically major crimes like, grand theft. So, back to the original point. If we armed teachers, the teacher could incapacitate the suspect before the suspect's able to commit much harm. He'll probably still get off a couple rounds at least, People are going to get hurt and or die. And even though I stand by the point that 1 person dying is just as bad as 100, it's still better if somebody who's there has a gun and brings down the guy before he's able to commit more harm. Because chances are the person who's working at the school and has a gun will be able to bring down the suspect before the police even arrive. I know this is going to cause a lot of debate, and I know my ideas can create a lot of controversy, as I have been explicitly told before by numerous people. But I honestly feel it could work. as long as we set up the necessary scenarios for such actions to be put in place. So, like always, leave your comments. My address will be posted. As always, feel free to send me anything you want. Tell me I'm a piece of shit or whatever, and I'll be looking forward to it. Later.